What is Shraddha? Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satya Buddhi Avadharanam Sa Shraddha Katita. Welcome back to the discussion about the Sthita Prajna Lakshana. The second chapter that we are studying has a very important significance to all of us. Here, Sri Krishna is giving us the formula of how to be in this world but not be tainted by it. How to be in it but yet keep our focus, keep our mind steadily on the divine, and thereby we enjoy the bliss that is intrinsically within all of us. One thing which we need to note here is that Ananda or joy or bliss is not to be found outside. It is a state of our own being, how I am within myself. And there is this steady stream of Ananda, bliss. What kind of bliss? This bliss is devoid of all miseries, devoid of all negativities. There is this fountain always within us. And the purpose of our life is to detect this source that is within us. Once we find the source, then our thirst will be quenched forever. So this thirst after life that we are going after, material objects, things and relationships and so on and so forth, all of these, they will all merge into that one. Not that we will get rid of all of these, but these things will appear to become secondary, and that enjoyment of the bliss that is within us will take the driver's seat. So that is what we need to do in our life. The purpose of the study of the Bhagavad Gita or of any other scripture is to enable us to find that very source. That source, Sat, Chit and Ananda. That source has to be found. That is the idea that Sri Krishna is telling about. In fact, Arjuna asked this very pertinent question. You are talking about the perfect person, but I don't see any perfect person anywhere at all. So is there any characteristic of the perfect person so that I can find out who that is? To this question, Sri Krishna is giving this answer of Sthita Prajna Lakshana, the characteristics of a person of a steady being, of steady mind. So that is what we all want to have. Even though when our mind becomes very agitated at times, intrinsically we all feel that we need to have that state of mind wherein I will not get agitated. Even when I am angry, a part of my being is always telling me, look, there is no point in getting angry. If I have to be happy, I need not to be angry. So this is saying all the time that feeling is within all of us, and that feeling must be actualized in our life. The whole effort of all religion is to find this very source from where we can gain that strength, that power to overcome all the trials and tribulations which life throws before us. Having said that, Sri Krishna in the past, in the verses 62 and 63, when Arjuna asked this question, why do I become agitated? Why am I feeling in the manner that I am feeling right now? When I am faced with trials and tribulations, I am feeling like running away from it. I do not want to have anything, any one of it. Why? that question of why is being answered by Sri Krishna, said it is because you have become a slave of your senses. Vishayan Dhyayataha. Dhyayataha. I will run over this once again because, in my opinion, my personal opinion, these two verses 62 and 63, represent the whole gamut of psychology, as it were. All the psychology, the books of psychology that we study anywhere will not be able to give us this kind of clarity that Sri Krishna gives here in these two verses. And it's important for us to understand it once again. So I will just go through it one, and I know a few of you were not there in the last month's class. So for the benefit of those who were not with us, I would try to bring this point once again to our mind. It is also a system called Simha Avalokana. In while we study the scriptures, there is this system called Simha Avalokana. The lion, the king of the forest, is walking. As he walks 10 or 15 steps, pauses, looks behind, and ensures that nobody else is following him or no danger is behind him, and then goes forward. In the same manner, this Simha Avalokana, that means looking back, is very important for us. With that introduction, I will just go through these two verses. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangasteshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Bhijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smritir Bhramshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. Dhyayataha Vishayan. This term dhyana is a very important one. By dhyana, that means we all understand it as meditation. But the terminology meaning is dwelling upon something. Thinking, dwelling upon something is dhyana. So you may have the dhyana of a tasty pudding, a tasty sweet, or you may have the dhyana or meditation on the divine. It is up to us which kind of dhyana we want to have. So here he says, Dhyayataha Vishayan. If we continuously meditate upon, that means if we dwell upon the objects of the senses, because the objects are always there, they are coming and moving. And our senses, if they like it, they go towards it. If they do not like it, they have an aversion towards it and they do not want to enjoy it. So he says, Dhyayataha Vishayan Sangahateshu Upajayate. That means the more and more you see these things, the more and more you encounter the objects, then what happens? Sangaha, a kind of desire, a kind of association, this kind of sense of association starts. Sangahateshu Upajayate. And if we retain that Sangha, that means if we retain the memory of the things that are in front of us, what happens? Sangat Sanjayate Kama. Kama means there is a desire to possess it, to make it my very own, to have it to myself, to enjoy it. This happens. Sanjayate, Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha, Kamat Krodha Abhijayate. If what I have seen is not reachable, if I cannot get it, what happens? Krodha, that means kind of anger develops. And that is the beginning point. Krodha actually, up to Kama, it is good. It is all right. Your face is saying something, you like it, that's perfectly all right. But the difficulty comes when you start having the Krodha. That means if you do not have it and you get extremely agitated by not having it. Krodha. Kamat krodha abhijayate. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. If we have that intense anger, what happens? Temporary madness occurs. That is what the Bhashyakara says, the commentator says here. Temporary madness occurs if I do not get what I want. Intense anger causes this temporary madness. What is madness? Sammoha. Sammoha means I forget myself. Who I am, what I am, in actuality is forgotten. That is the idea. That is who is a mad person? A mad person is one who is not aware of himself or herself. Is not aware of oneself. Does things at random without knowing what he or she is doing. That is madness. So Sri Krishna very aptly says here that when this anger takes over you, when it overpowers you, then what happens? You become deluded, you become temporarily mad. And if that madness lingers on, if this moha lingers on, if this delusion keeps on lingering, then the next step is growth. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Because of that, vibhrama, that means you forget your real nature. Smriti here means memory. Memory of what I really am, what I really represent. See, you forget your own self. You become the object that you hate. You become the very person or object that you are angry about. We sell ourselves to that, as it were. Smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhramshat buddhinashaha. Then what happens? Buddhi, that is the discriminative faculty, which says, do this, do not do this, that stops functioning. It says, there is no point in helping this person who is so agitated, who does not want to listen to me. Therefore, I am not going to function, says the Buddhi. The Buddhi says, I will become dysfunctional anymore. I am not going to help you anymore. Buddhinashaha buddhinashat pranashyati. Then the downfall of a person happens. Day in and day out, we see this happening in the lives of many people, especially of those who do not have any handle over their anger, over their passions, who become a prey to these passions or these negative qualities that we acquire. It doesn't come from outside anyway. We start. Who is getting angry? I am getting angry. Nobody is responsible for my anger. I am getting angry because there is that desire within me to possess this or to have mastery over this person or this situation or that situation. See, the mother also gets angry. The father also gets angry because wants to see the best in the child, does not want to see what is good for the child himself or herself. We think that is best for my child. That is where our problems start. Anyway, I'm not going into that child psychology over here, but we are, Sudha, we are doing the verses 62 and 63. So, dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangaha teshu upajayate. God's sanjaya. So, I would urge all of you to, after this study of these verses, to go back and read each and every word of these two verses. It's a request. You go back and read them, read the meaning. If you understand Sanskrit, well and good. If you do not understand Sanskrit, read the meaning, maybe from one or two different sources. You read the meaning of it, word to word, not just the whole sentences, word to word, and then dwell upon these things. What is Sri Krishna saying to me? What is the reality that behind all these sayings? So try to do that. That is your homework for the next for the month that will come forward, the next month. Okay. So having said that, I will, as I said, I just will dwell upon it only for a few minutes. And the one thing which we need to note is that we construct our life with great care. With great care and concern, we construct this edifice of our life. But unfortunately, due to one small forgetfulness, if I can say that forgetfulness, Bhranti, the whole edifice sometimes falls down. We see this in the lives of so many of us. All relationships, they get torn asunder. That which people have built for 30, 40, 50 years even, all of that comes to an end within just a few seconds, not even minutes, within a few seconds. How can we prevent ourselves from reaching to that state? That is where we need to pay heed to these two verses. That is my request to all of you to go through it. So, Sri Krishna, however, says here that this discipline, spiritual discipline, must be practiced with care. Yatnataha, Sri Krishna says elsewhere, Yatnataha, with great care and with great Shraddha. What is Shraddha? Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satya Buddhi Avadharanam Sa Shraddha Katita. We have to listen to the words of the scriptures. We have to read the words of the scriptures. We have to understand the meaning behind these words, not just chant it. Many of us chant the whole of Bhagavad Gita during the Gita Jayanti and forget it for the rest of the year. That is no good. Meditate upon these verses. So therefore he says, you need to cultivate this habit from the beginning itself. If you do it, from the formative period itself, if you do it, then there is no chance of the edifice falling. If the basis or the foundation is extremely strong and firm, then there is no danger there may be some cracks here or there, but that can be always patched. In our life also, those cracks can be patched. But if the basis of our very life is not strong, then the whole edifice would fall. Therefore, let us try and pay heed to Sri Krishna's words. Let us go to the verse 64. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaischaran atmavashyair vidheyatma prasadamati gacchati. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaihi charan. Sri Krishna, I will paraphrase this. He says, tu, but means in reference to the previous ones. What does Sri Krishna says in the previous verse? There he says that these senses lead you to ruin if they are not properly controlled. The senses, they are going towards the object and you will be misled. Now, in contrast, Sri Krishna is saying in this verse, but says, these very senses which mislead you can become your friend. With that one single word, tu, Sri Krishna is meaning this, that in the previous verse I have told that the senses can indeed lead you to ruin, but here in this verse I am going to explain to you that you need not worry about it. You have some path, you have some means to overcome these obstacles. So he says, tu vidheyatma, a person with a disciplined mind. Vidheya atma. I will explain these words in greater detail right now. One with a disciplined mind, and raga dvesha viyuktaihi, devoid of attachment and aversion. Raga and dvesha. And then atmavashyaihi indriyaihi, with the senses under one's control. Vishayan charan, they approach the sense objects but is not affected by it. Prasadam adhigacchati, attains tranquility, attains serenity. A person of disciplined mind who has his senses under control and who has neither attraction nor aversion for sense objects attains tranquility, though he may be moving amidst objects of the senses. It's a very important verse that Sri Krishna is giving. On the one hand, he has told us about all the negatives. Now, Sri Krishna is showing us another facet, the second facet of the same subject. Raga and Dvesha, these two words he is using here. What is Raga? Raga is attachment. Raga is attachment or attraction. To be more precise, let us use the term attraction. And Dvesha is aversion. Both attraction and aversion are dangerous. But a person with a steady buddhi, a steady intellect, a refined intellect, by buddhi means a refined intellect, such a person's serenity and poise is not at all disturbed. How do I get that? Through the practice of this kind of yoga. That means uniting myself with the divine, uniting myself with the Atman or the self. All these are synonyms. Divine, Atman, Brahman, all these are synonyms. So he says, by or through yoga, one's mind must be trained not to go after the senses, not to go after the objects of the senses. The senses are there in their own place. The eye wants to see that which is very beautiful. The ears want to hear that which is very melodious to itself, and so on and so forth. All the senses, they want the best. No doubt about it. That's perfectly all right. I see something very beautiful. The trouble comes when I associate my ego with all of these things. I associate my ego and then try to go and approach it, try to have it to myself. So the objects are neither good nor bad. They are neutral. It is my intentions or my feeling towards it that matters. Sri Krishna says, in the beginning itself, if you can train your mind, if you can let your discriminative faculty, the buddhi or the intellect, to put on its thinking cap, as we call it, put on its thinking cap and say, all right, this is very beautiful. I am seeing such a beautiful scenery over here. That's perfectly all right. I am seeing these beautiful objects that are there in the shopping center, perfectly all right. But the problem comes when I want to possess it, even though I do not need it, but I want it. That want and need. See, the whole world towards today is mostly geared towards wants. Our needs are really, really very few, but the wants are unending. So Sri Krishna is saying here, look, if you become a prey to the wants, then you are losing your poise of mind, your peace of mind. If I see something so very beautiful that I want it for myself, even though there is no need for it, what happens? I will have to spend the money, and for spending the money, I will have to work harder, or I will have to go and borrow more and more and more and more, and become more burdened in life. So Sri Krishna is trying to tell us that it is perfectly all right for you to enjoy things as they are, but do not think that they will be yours for all time to come. Do not try to possess it to yourself. In the same manner, he says, aversion is also a great danger. Aversion. Do not think that something is bad. Nothing is either good or intrinsically either good or intrinsically bad. All of them are neutral. It is my reaction towards it that is very important. So Sri Krishna says here that you need to have freedom of the mind. Freedom of the mind, from freedom from the senses, not become a prey to your sense objects. So here say varaga and dvesha. These things are very important. Raga, of course, means attraction. Dvesha, one of the commentators, he gives a very beautiful interpretation of it. He says, Dve vishaha dvishaha. What is visha? Visha is poison. Dve vishaha. Twice poisonous. Dve vishaha. Twice poisonous is hatred. Raga is okay, but twice poisonous is dvesha. Why? Because it poisons the person who hates. If I hate you, then first of all, I am poisoning my mind. And secondly, I am throwing that poison towards you also. Today's science has come to a stage wherein it is able to measure the influence of thoughts, influence of mind upon the others. If I think ill of you, what is happening? First of all, I am dirtying my own mind, and then a subtle part of the thought is going and it is hitting you. As a result, what happens? You are also sending back the same thoughts towards me. All these are very subtle signs, if I can call it. It is happening, and fortunately today they are creating technology in order to measure these things. How a person's thought influences the other, how those waves they travel from one way to the other. And in our own life, all of you, I am very sure, all of you have seen that if you are thinking very intently, or if you are concerned very intently about somebody who is there thousands of miles away, there is no doubt that that person also received those messages and feels anxious. This is a fact, and I have personally experienced it few times. I will not go into all the details. Sometimes later it can be mentioned. So raga and dvesha. Dvesha means this hatred. Hatred is a very destructive. It's a very destructive aspect in our life. Therefore, hatred towards none, malice towards none, as the English saying goes. Therefore, let us try to conserve ourselves. When a thought of hating somebody comes, dislike is all right, it is okay. But dwelling upon the person whom I dislike, it creates this tanmatra or this wave of dvesha or of hatred. Yes, I do not dislike you. That's perfectly all right. I forget about it. I do not like you. That's okay. But I intently think of hating you. I intently think of disliking you at all times. That creates this hatred. Therefore, it says raga and dvesha. These are the two great enemies. So Sri Krishna says here, raga, dvesha, viyuktaihi. A person, yukta means to join. A person who has disjoined himself or herself from these two things, raga and dvesha, that means both attraction and aversion. Both these are very important and but very dangerous feelings that we always have. How do I withdraw myself from these two? He says, Atma Vashyaihi. Now raise yourself above the body and mind conscious. Raise yourself. That means based upon the feeling that you are divine, Atma Vashya. There are two meanings for Atma Vashya. One meaning is that you are under the control of the Atman or of the Supreme Being. That is one meaning. The other is that Atman here means the mind, that your mind has been totally withdrawn. It has been controlled. It has been reined in, as it were. These are the two meanings that Sri Krishna intends us to know. Therefore, he says, Ragat Atma Vashyaihi Vidheyatma. Vidheya means one who is very obedient. Vidheya. If my mind is very obedient towards me, then I achieve my goal. If my mind is disobedient towards me, then I do not achieve my goal at all. Therefore, here he says, Atma Vashyaihi Vidheya Atma, disciplined mind. That is one of the meanings given by the translator, with a disciplined mind. This is a very important. Vidheya Atma. Sri Shankaracharya gives a commentary on this. Ichchato Vidheya Atma Antahkaranam Yasya Saha Vidheya Atma. Such a person whose inner being, whose antahkarana, that means whose mind and the intellect, etc., is such that it always obeys the commands of the inner being. That is called as the Vidheya Atma. Atma Vashyaihi Vidheya Atma. Have control over yourself. Do not lose yourself. Do not sell yourself to the habits that you cultivate. Do not sell yourself to it. Have that hold. Be a master and not a slave, Swami Vivekananda says. Always be a master and not a slave. Atma Vashyehi Vidheyatma, then Prasadham Adhigachati. Sri Krishna says here, what happens to you when you have this control over yourself? Sometimes people ask this question. Well, I practice a lot of spiritual disciplines. I do pray every day. I do my japa or meditation without fail. I do my yoga every day. But I don't seem to make any progress at all. I feel that I am stuck where I am. This is a very common question that is asked by many people. Why is it so? Why do you feel that you have not moved forward? Because you have become a slave of those habits only. You have not internalized those things. You wake up in the morning, you go to the puja room or you go to the worship room, and then you do your chanting or bhajans or whatever it is, and then you go and perform all of your actions, etc. Then come back again, you do all of that, try to meditate for a little while, but then still you think that you have not made any progress. Why? It is because your inner being is not in accordance to what you are doing. The inner being. That is why it should be internalized, whether it is chanting the mantra, whether it is saying a prayer, whether it is meditating or doing any service. Internalize it, not externalize it. Many a times we have lots of people who are involved in many things like building temples and so on and so forth. Very good work, there is no doubt. But when they start working with and doing work with others, as soon as somebody says something about you or about the work, make some comment about the work that you are doing, all that anger comes from within. I have spent so much of money, I have spent so much of time and energy, and I am so pious, and these people are, they don't recognize me. So where is your dedication over there? The dedication is only to please your name and fame. That's all that you have. If I am doing some work for the society or for the Lord, I will never think of anybody's comments. I will not bother about who says what. I will do what I am doing because that is my dharma, that is my sadhana. And Sri Krishna elsewhere he says that this is a kind of tapas. What happens? What does tapas do to us? Tapa means to heat up, to warm up, to heat, to warm, or to fire up. This is the meaning of tapas. We all need tapas. And when we are performing any action, when we are performing our prayers, etc., this idea of tapas kicks in. That is why so many obstacles come. One of our Swamis used to tell us when we were very young, is to say, you know what is tapas? Tapas is a process wherein you take something that is not good and convert it into that which is very good. And he gave an example of mercury. You know, mercury, if you consume mercury just like that, it is poison. It can kill you. But an Ayurvedic physician, what does he do? Takes the mercury, heats it up, burns out all the poisonous elements that is there, and makes you use of that same mercury for preparing medicines. saying this. He said, tapas is like this. You are doing something and you face a lot of trials and tribulations. Hold on to it. Take this as your tapas. Take this as your sadhana, your spiritual practice. Hold on to it. Do not unnecessarily get worked out. Don't have this raga and dvesha towards what you are doing. And then as a result, what happens? All those dross or all that, the poisonous substances that are there, so-called desire for name, fame and recognition, etc., it will all be burnt into ashes. And then will come out of you a pure personality. You can apply the same thing in your own family situation also, when you are dealing with your spouse or with your children and all of that. Take this as a tapas. That's a very important thing. So Sri Krishna here is trying to say raga dvesha viyuktaistu. If you can get rid of these two things, raga, that means attraction towards things, they are there. Yes, enjoy it, no doubt about it, but don't become a slave to it. And dvesha, hatred, disliking somebody, which results in hatred, is bad. Just disliking somebody, I go away from that person and do not want to meet that person or don't want to have anything with that person. That's perfectly all right. But trying to put on a very deceptive smile on my face, and yet within I am burning with rage against that person. The worst kind of hatred that we can think of. Vishayan Indriyas, Atmavashyehi. The second line he says, Atmavashyehi. If you can control yourself, if you can lock yourself with the divine Atman that is within you, then prasadam adhigacchati. Prasada means total serenity, tranquility can be reached. What is prasada? There is a deeper meaning to prasada. Prasada is that quality of the mind, the chitta, where there is satisfaction or joy without any regret. You enjoy it, you savor it without having any kind of regret at all. The state of prasada is when the agitation of our mind is silenced and a wonderful calmness overtakes us. This Patanjali calls as Chitta Vritti Nirodha. This prasada is termed by Patanjali as the definition of yoga. Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Chitta Vritti, the meditations of the mind, is totally under one's control. You are not under control of anything at all. You are totally composed and controlled. So in order to have this kind of peace, which Christ said, the peace that passeth all understanding. A beautiful phrase over there. The peace that passeth all understanding. Means in our understanding of things, we know something, there is a little bit of doubt over there. And therefore, we are not totally at peace. But when we transcend this kind of understanding, which we overcome this kind of understanding or go over this kind of understanding, comes that peace which nobody can take away from you. Nobody can take it away from you. You are always in that state of poise. So 3 steps are there to achieve this depending upon, studying from the previous verses. The first is to remove this raga and dvesha. The first step in our spiritual life should be to remove this attraction and aversion. that is hidden within our being, within our senses. The second is to bring under control all of the senses. At my will, I should be able to enjoy. At my will, I should be able to withdraw from. It will not get inside me. Yes, externally, yes, I have enjoyed it, but it will not be internalized. That is bringing under control the sense. That is what is meant by bringing under control all our senses. The third is bringing under our control our sankalpa and vikalpa. What is sankalpa? Sankalpa is our wants. Sankalpa. I want to do this, I want to get this, and so on and so forth. Have a reign over it. If it is very essential, try to get it. If it is not essential, just throw it. Even though it is the best thing in the world, just throw it, because it is not needed for me. It is not necessary. If I get it, I am going to be more unhappy in the long run. Therefore, sankalpa and vikalpa is not rejecting something. That is also another thing. Vikalpa is rejecting something. Reject none. Accept everyone on their face value and do not be involved in anyone. That is the idea. Do not be involved. See, it brings us to this topic of destiny of every being. All of us have our own individual destinies. Everyone, all of us have our own individual destiny. And we need to work our way through to reach that destiny. We can go faster or we can go slower. It is up to us. If I have to work out all my destiny, then I can, with great force, I can go forward by following the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, like getting rid of this raga and dvesha, getting rid of this desire for name, fame, and so on and so forth. These are some of the techniques that Sri Krishna gives to us. And the second meaning of prasada is purity of mind. It is another characteristic of prasada is purity of mind. Sri Krishna talks about it elsewhere and he calls it as vyavasayatmika buddhi. Vyavasaya. What is vyavasaya? In Tamil, vyavasaya means farming. A farmer is known as vyavasayi. So vyavasaya. What does the farmer do? The farmer tills the land and then mows the land, and then he offers the nutrients to the land, and then also plants the seeds over there, and then reaps the fruits. So vyavasaya, that means there's a lot of effort that goes towards it. So Sri Krishna says here that you be like a vyavasayi. In another chapter, it's called Kshetra Kshetrajna Yoga, Vibhaga Yoga. There also he brings in this idea, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. That means you should have that kind of understanding wherein you exert yourself to reap the maximum benefits. You must reap the benefits. There is no doubt about it. But Sri Krishna, though he talks about nishkama karma and other things, selfless work, etc., it doesn't mean that you do not work for any results. He says, yes, you work for all the results. You need to exert more. You need to put forth all of your effort. But at the end of putting forth all of your effort, you take your hands off and say, now I leave it at the hands of the divine. Let the divine do whatever is good for me. That is real karma yoga. That is vyavasayatmika buddhi. You do the best. Bring up your children and look after them very well. But do not be attached to the results of the children or the family or the society or whatever it is. Hands off. After you do your work, just go home. There was a great saints whose name later became Kali Kambliwala. He was a great saint. No, he was a very rich zamindar, a landlord. And he owned a lot of land. It was in Bengal. And this was in the probably late 1800s late 1800s. He had a lot of land, and we had a family and everything. And he was getting older. He was in his 50s. One day he was going through his farm, and there he hears the daughter of the washerman, little daughter of the washerman, saying to her father, it was almost dusk, Baba, Shande hoyeche. I will tell it in Bengali and then translate it. Baba, Shande hoyeche, Bashonai agun dao. Baba, my father, Shande hoyeche. That means it is dusk now. It is time for you to fire up the Bashana. Bashana means in the olden days, even now, there is a big cauldron, a big drum, so to say. And they used to gather the banana stems and leaves, everything that was dried, and everything. They would bring it, and then they would put fire to that. So this banana trunk and all that will burn very slowly throughout the night. As a result, the water will keep boiling slowly, and then they will throw all the clothes that have to be washed along with some kind of soap, and then it will boil throughout the night. And in the morning, when the washerman comes, he sees that the clothes are clean, they are devoid of all dirt. So he brings it out and then dries it, washes it once again, rinses it, and then dries it. Now, Bashona is the name for that kind of fire. So the daughter said, it is time, father, to put fire to your vasanas. Now, he understood it as vasana means vasanas. Vasana means desires. Father, it is time to put fire to your desires. It is your life is approaching the end. Sandhya means the dusk. You are approaching the dusk of your life, and it is time for you to put fire to your vasanas or to the desires. Immediately, he recognized the true meaning of these words, and he bowed down mentally to that little girl, went home, told his wife and children and all that, look, all of my estate, everything is in order. The accountant knows what is where. You take care of it. It is time for me to go away. And so he went away to the Himalayas and meditated it there for a very, very long period of time. And after realizing and all that, so he later established, because he had good contacts with people, he later established these dharamshalas, the inns wherein people would go and rest for the night and have a meal. So even today, if you go to the Uttarakhand, northern part of India, you will see that Kali Kambliwala Chhatra, Kali Kambliwala Dharmashala. It is still there. Still it is going on for more than 100 years or so. No, the idea is that the purity of mind will come when we put fire to our vasanas, to our desires, to our desire for name, fame, and material comfort and all of that. It is essential. As long as they are there, yes, you enjoy it. But let us not live in it. Let it not live in the mind. Whatever is there is there. It goes to you, O Lord. Yadyat karomi tattadakilam shambho tava aradhanam. The meditation mantra of Lord Shiva comes. Whatever I do, O Lord, it is your aradhana, your worship. O Lord, it is your worship. Whether I am walking, whether I am talking, whether I am eating, whether I am thinking, all of this is going back unto you. It has come from you and it is going towards you, O Lord Shiva. So that should be our prasada, that should be the goal of our life, to achieve this kind of tranquility, this kind of purity of mind. So, what is the result of such prasada? What is the result of such a feeling? We will be free from all dukkhas. We will be free from all kinds of miseries, so to say. See, the nature of the Atman is that of Ananda, is that of bliss. That is why we are seeking, because that nature is within all of us, we are seeking for that joy which we are missing in our day-to-day life. Therefore, we are looking for it everywhere. We look for it in buying a house, we look for it in buying a new car, we look for it in buying some good food or in eating some good food, and so on and so forth. But the very basis is within all of us. Once we find the real source that is within us, which has been almost covered, as it were, by all these different desires, once we remove it, this scum that is there on the lake of our mind, then we will see our own selves there. That Ananda is there within me at all times. Let me enjoy that very fountain that is there, instead of seeing it, trying to find it outwards anywhere. So that should be the goal of our, or that should be the sadhana of our life. That should be the method by which we look at the world. The world is neither good nor bad intrinsically. We make it either good or bad according to our feeling or our way of looking at it. So let our whole perception of life change through the words of Sri Krishna.